Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the F124 Driver Career Mode here with the Haas F1 team. Still in our first season, round 17, as we head to the city streets of Baku. Not a sprint race this time around. Last year, I believe it was a sprint race. This time, just straightforward qualifying and race. Looking to try and turn in a good performance. We are starting to run up on potentially some engine components needing a replacement at the end of the year because of some DNFs. But looking at the weather report, at least on the one-shot look there for qualifying and race, looks like it's going to be some dry sessions for us as we look to continue to move forward up the grid. Let's take a look at the messages and see if there's any extra information in there for us. Okay, heading forward. Tricky little sections in the middle of the city circuit here. The castle section gets very interesting. We do have quite a few developments that are there, and it looks like for the weather forecast going to be cloudy but not rainy. So have to do some overtaking. 12 laps completed. We've done a few in practice already. You can see we're starting to catch up to the performance of the top group. So we might be able to start mixing it up with them. Baku, though, has typically been a very difficult circuit for me to qualify on. So it usually ends up having to be an overtaking festival to try to get anywhere near. But you can see we're starting to get some fairly worn components in a few of the slots that we're going to have to worry about. Gearboxes, we should be okay by the end of the season, but internal combustion engines we might be running low on. But let's get ready to head over into qualifying.
It is a truly unique layout. Welcome to Baku and welcome to qualifying.
And at a track we already have trouble qualifying in, we've already got a little bit of a delay, electrical fault for the system, so we're going to lose a little bit of qualifying time. But let's jump out onto the track now. Only lost about 2 minutes or so. We're going to wind it up for our first qualifying lap, spot our braking point just ahead of 100 meters into turn 1, get the car rotated, that outside wall comes up very quickly. Now on to turn 2, look for that little Marshall's gap in the wall is about our braking point. Then on to open up the DRS as we head down towards turn 3. Straight line just between the light box and the 100-meter board. Going to turn in for turn 3, and then about 60 meters or so on the brakes for the right-hander of turn 4. Now we're getting kind of to the middle tricky sections. This tight little left-hander. You want to try and hug that inside wall as much as you can without clipping it to open up that right-hander for the second portion. Now we head into the very slow, tight corner, take a curb, really try and straight line the exit, right around the light box, brake, turn into the castle section. It's very tricky. Try to hold the right side as much as you can at the top of the hill, but you get so light coming over the crest that it's easy to run to the left and compromise your run. Now flat out through these couple left-handers, and now a tricky braking zone, turn 15. Got to get the car on the brakes, rotated over the crest of that hill. You can kind of hop that curb in the game. And now the important turn 16. Because from here to the finish line, it is all full throttle the rest of the way. So turn 16, very important to get right. And now use the top speed of the car. Try and see when you can open the DRS. Use the last bit of overtake to get the top speed on. I don't know why the audio does this sometimes, but across the line we go. A 39.302 at the moment, provisionally P9. Jumping back out on circuit at the dying moments, and we have shifted down to provisional P15. So headed down to turn 1. A little later, braking a tiny bit of a snatch to the front left tire there. We still get the car rotated just barely. A little cautious into turn 2 there, but we do gain on the exit. A tiny bit of wheel spin as we open up the DRS. There was a little bit of yellow flags up ahead as we were starting the lap, but they look to have cleared up. Now down into turn 3. We found about 1/10 of a second through the first couple of corners here. And have an opportunity to find some more. We definitely left some time on this left-hander here. If we can get closer to the wall this time, a little better. Might find some time, but we've run a little bit deep on the entry to the right-hander there, and it's not going to allow us some time. 37.804 is what Leclerc has done to extend the provisional pole time. We need to find significantly more than that in order to get up there. Push down to P16, 17. Perez goes fastest overall. Now down to P18 as cars are crossing line. Our teammate crosses the line. Is already ahead of us. We found about half a second, nearly, if we can have a good run through the final couple of corners. But big snap of oversteer as we come over the hill. Have to gather it up, but we still managed to keep the time flowing somehow. Now, out of turn 16, a little better release off that corner, so we're going to find time pretty much the entire way down. We've saved some battery to try and deploy in a bit of a different strategy this time. Get the acceleration, and as soon as the DRS is open, we're going to dump that battery some more. All the way to the line, we are going to find about 4.5 tenths. Where is that going to put us? And just up into P15, so not a stellar qualifying session here, but it could have been better.
Qualifying wrapped up, we now have our grid line up for the big race tomorrow. Be sure to join us then for what will no doubt be a fantastic race.
But 1.2 seconds off of the lead pack, not where we wanted to be, especially with the car starting to get up towards the pack. We actually qualified behind our teammate, which is a fairly rare occurrence so far this season. P15, though, I believe we might consider taking some engine penalties and starting at the back. So here we are in the control center, and we do have that cloudy race coming up. So going to take a look, and I think it is going to be time for just a fresh power unit. You know, 5 places back is not the worst place to be around Baku. You can overtake. 15th is it's going to be a tricky one getting into the points already, so we may as well just take the engine penalty now. See if we can't make some positions up in the race.
A warm welcome to you from Azadlik Square, heart of Baku and home, of course, of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. With high speeds, tight corners and few runoff zones, many are expecting a safety car here today. So our drivers will have to stay very much on their toes and hopefully out of the barriers. With 20 turns and a length of 3.7 miles, Baku City Circuit in the heart of the Azerbaijan capital is a real test of a driver's endurance, patience and precision. 90-degree corners through Sector 1, leading to a tightening uphill sprint as we start to circle around the old city. Then a 1.4-mile chase flat out through Sector 3 towards the finish line. It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday and he'll start from pole position. Sergio Perez lines up alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Fernando Alonso, Sainz, Bottas, Stroll, Russell, Hamilton, Albon, Oscar Piastri, Norris, Joe, Hulkenberg, Old-Timer, Ocon, Tsunoda, Ricciardo, Sargent, and Pierre Gasly picks up the final grid slot today. And now it's time to head down to the track. Welcome to the commentary box. I'm Alex Jakes, delighted to say joining us for this intriguing race is Anthony Davidson. Now, those final hours before a race, did you have a routine?
Well, for them, you've got your pre-race rituals that you go through. You see different drivers that, some have got their headphones on, they're listening to the music. Some drivers really absorb the energy from the crowd and they're there waving to them. Other drivers, they go within themselves. They chat to their engineers, absorbing that information, that vital information that you need to carry you through the race. And, those pre-race rituals are essential to making things systematic. We do a lot of Grand Prix in a season, and the more systematic you can be, the easier you are within that environment.
So it looks like there was a little bit of a mistake there from the game. It has us still listed in P15 instead of shuffling us back in the grid here. We're taking a look at the strategies. We are going to have to work our way from the back. I am planning, essentially, as the lights go out, lifting out to make sure I get to 20th place before I move myself back forward in this one. I have to work through. We're going to go with the alternate reverse strategy. Take the hard tires first, try and go long, and then make up some time, and because we're going to have to do some overtaking, make up some on the faster tire at the end. But here comes the 5 red lights. And lights are out, and you can see I'm going to move just over to the right side here. Let everybody go past. We're in 20th. Now we can resume our attack. We weren't able to make a lunge on the 2x2 into turn 1. Was hoping I might have an opportunity to do that, but we've managed to offset the game's mistake. But you can see just how slow it can get through these first couple of corners when you're deep in the pack. So headed on down to turn 3, still 2x2 ahead of us, looking to see maybe there's an opportunity to slide in. A bit of a lockup on the way in. We're going to take the inside line of Logan Sargent. That's going to turn to the outside in this next corner. We're going to try and hang it out around the outside and move ourselves up into 19th. He's still there on the right. We got to respect the space just a little bit longer. And finally, there's one position done and dusted. Now looking ahead, Yuki Tsunoda on the medium tires. Sometimes if you can get a good run and have a decent little lunge, we're going to look to go to the inside, but we have to keep it very tight to the right because it's very narrow. So once again, up another position as they slowed up, left the door open, and now over the hill. You can see how tough it is to get the car over to that right side. Need to do better in that because you can see how much time we lose through the subsequent left-hander. Now we do have the car set up for decently low downforce, so our straight line speed should be pretty solid around here and give us an opportunity to fight with the cars around us, because that is absolutely what's going to be needed around a track like this. So as we head through the final couple of corners of the first lap, tuck into the slipstream, use a considerable amount of battery to start closing up on the back of the car ahead. You can see there's a long area where you start harvesting down this straight. So we're going to be using the hot lap mode quite a bit as Tsunoda takes a bit of a lunge in the mirrors there. Nearly gets into the back of us, but we are going to try and exploit the fact that most cars are going to be harvesting down the tail bits of that main straight and try and use our hot lap mode to keep the car deploying into that last little bit. Too wide, 2 McLarens up ahead of us, but alas, nothing doing on the way into turn 3 this time. We have closed up quite nicely to the Alpine, having a little look to the inside of turn 4, but not going to make any kind of lunge there. Door was always going to close. He is on the medium tires, which is the quicker tire, and it looks like a little side-by-side action has slowed up some of the cars ahead. Are we going to take a lunge down into turn 7 to the castle? No, we are not. We're going to keep it nice and tidy. So we've been able to make a couple of positions on the first lap here. Now we're settling in as the field's starting to stretch out. We need to just kind of hang tight with the group, with the cars ahead until those medium tires start to fall. Because everybody will start going at a more reasonable race pace now that they're not side by side headed into a corner. It looks like somebody's collected the bollard off of turn 15 there. And now out of turn 16, and once again, looking to wind up the car and try and get a run utilizing the slipstream on the Alpine up ahead of us. DRS is enabled, so we're going to open up that rear wing flap, and you can see harvesting. Harvesting is the car ahead. Now he's burning a little bit of battery in the last bit, so we're going to have a look and a big lunge up the inside on the brakes into turn 1. We managed to get the car stopped and through. Very good under braking to get that move done and dusted. Now we have the other V-carb of Daniel Ricciardo up ahead. It looks like Gasly's going to try, since he's tight in the slipstream, have another attempt at us. But we are going to use quite a bit of battery down that back straight in order to make sure he doesn't slow us up by attacking us into the next corner. Just taking a look at the tire wear, you can see the front's relatively unharmed. The rears take more of the punishment with the acceleration out of the slow corners here. The front's actually running fairly cold. Bit of rear locking on the way into turn 7 there. Have to gather the car up. That's going to cost me a bit of time to Danny Rick ahead of us. We should still maintain just just inside and within touching distance of that DRS. You see 0.8 of a second. But we're going to jump ahead now. We're on to lap 5 of 26. It wants us to try and keep our engine temperature down. I don't think that's necessarily going to happen considering the long straight we have. And we are very close to the back of Daniel Ricciardo. Although, engine maybe cooling down a little bit. You can see already, even before the DRS zone, we've got very good overspeed. Now even having a look at Ocon ahead. Danny Rick stays to the inside battling. Ocon moves to the inside. Can we go around the outside? We're not going to be able to go around the outside to make a move on Ocon, but we need to try and stay very tight to Ocon in order to keep Ricciardo from claiming the inside position. So we managed to hold off Danny Rick on the re-attack down into turn 1. And actually it looks like we are keeping the car cool enough, even inside of this deep slipstream and in this train of cars. So 4 places up over the first 6 laps of the race. Not a bad start. And we will be on the faster tire at the end of the race. We just need to make sure that the lap time stays competitive on the hard tires while the other cars are going to be undercutting us. So we do have some overtaking left to do in this race, quite a bit of it. You can see with the train we're in, we've actually managed to save quite a bit of battery. We're up to 82%. Because when we're in this train, we're able to lift and coast on the way into some corners, save some fuel, recharge some battery with the regenerative braking. And now we're starting to wind ourselves up to try and go for another attack into turn 15. If we can get out of turn 15 and turn 16, well, it usually sets us up quite nicely for the attack down into turn 1. And indeed, pretty good exit off of turn 16, only 3/10 behind Esteban Ocon, and carrying good speed through the switchbacks, using a little battery to close the gap. The AI is going to harvest a little bit here, but now burn a bit as he's going to try and look like attack. So we're actually not going to utilize overtake since he's pulling away from us. We're just going to settle in on this one, as we would have had to burn a considerable amount of battery that would have left us kind of at risk and a little tricky getting past both. So just kind of hang on with the laps, keep on going, and we're actually doing quite well with the engine temperature. That's very surprising. I thought maybe the cool weather, the overcast weather is the difference. We're going to lunge up the inside of turn 4 here. Try and get to the inside of Ocon. He's going to have the grip of the medium tires around the outside. We're not quite going to get the job done. It does cost us a little bit of time, but we're going to re-attack, try and wind him up for turn 7. He's going to park kind of in the middle of the road. We have a little bit of a rear lock as we weren't quite sure whether he was going to cover the outside or the inside. He covers both by just parking it right down the center. So pretty good maneuver on his part defensively, but we have a very good run through the castle section this time. Managed to stay right on the gearbox of Esteban here. So should be, with a good run through turns 15 and 16, even closer to attack him. Was about just under 0.3 of a second last time through here. And once again, we're 1/4 of a second back. This time winding the car up. Try not to overspend some of the battery in the section where we're not going to make a difference now. Coming out of the corner, get in the slipstream, use the battery. Now we're out of the slipstream. Try and find a way to grab some slipstream off of Guan Yu Zhou ahead. We have burned down the battery considerably. Ocon still hanging out on the outside. So we are going to have him side by side braking on the inside of turn 1. Leave him some space, but he is going to have to back out of it. And we get the move done into turn 1. He managed to hang out on the outside there very well, even when we had the slipstream help from Guan Yu Zhou. But a hard fought, another position gained. We can see our teammate up there just ahead of the McLarens. So he's about 4 spots ahead, and that's a car that we will definitely want to try. We're going to lunge to the inside, turn 5. Zhou caught napping this time. We were able to be late enough on the brakes and make up another quick position. So now it is just the McLarens splitting us and our teammate, the benchmark that we always want to be beating in a race weekend. We lost a qualifying session to him, which I'm not surprised by. I've never qualified around Baku very well, either in league racing or in the career modes. But now you can see getting the castle section figured out a lot better, how important it is to hug that right hander at the top of the hill very tight in order to make sure you get a good run through the left-hander. Oh, and big rear lockup as we head into turn 15. It looks like somebody ahead of us even clipped the wall. Zhou trying to make a little bit of a run. Somehow we drift our way through turn 15. I don't know how I survived that corner, to be honest. Just kind of reacted into the slide. But we do manage to burn some batteries, still stay within the DRS of Lando Norris.
No need to worry about the tyre condition for now. Everything's looking good.
But as those rear tires continue to fall off, we're going to have to be more and more cognizant of braking into turn 15. It unloads the rears so much. So we will have to be very careful with brake balance adjustments the rest of the way. Slide that brake balance a little bit forward. We're going to jump ahead to lap 10 now, though. We've closed back up to the rear end of the McLaren. A better way. That's how you brake. You can see the brake balance up to 57% for that corner this time. So we're continuing to slide the brake balance a little bit forward as those rears have less and less grip to lend. But we managed to close right back up to Norris. You can see our teammate has actually run away from Valtteri Bottas. There's a little bit of a gap. We get a very good run. So we're going to clear Norris by the time we open the DRS. We're using the battery, though. He's coming back at us. He's got good engine speed here, but down into turn 1. Ooh, a little late on the brakes, a little wide through the entrance there. We nearly get into the back of Valtteri and Oscar, but managed to cover off Lando, get to the racing line so he's not able to make a reactive move on us. We're going to try and burn some battery. Maybe we have a chance to lunge on Valtteri here. He's going to go defensive to the inside. We're going to go way around the outside. Leave him space because I loves to clip the inside. And an engine problem as we have the rear lockup on the way into turn 5 and a mechanical failure. We took an entirely fresh engine for this race and we have a total engine failure in this one. So a DNF after a whole new power unit. We'll see which part ended up going out, but that is not ideal.
You've heard this one before. Max Verstappen takes the victory.
A great display of dominance today by this driver. They led from lights out to the flag at the end, led every lap of the race. Brilliant stuff by them, and excited to see what more they can do in future races.
Here come today's winners. The team at Red Bull have done a phenomenal job recently. It's clear to see that they've put in the work, and they should be proud of the victory they've secured here.
So a double Ferrari podium on board with Max Verstappen. A good result for
An
them.
event like that, who knows what the sport has in store for us next time? Be sure to join us again as we continue to bring you the latest excitement in Formula One.
And Nico managing to snag a point today. Nicely done from him. Is that his? Yeah, he's up to 9 points on the season. So he's grabbed some points in a day. I didn't expect us to grab points. So we're catching up quite nicely. Have a lot to reel in the cars ahead on the Constructors' Championship, but doing what we can. Singapore Grand Prix coming up next. Not a lot of time for any developments, but yeah, engine failure is not ideal. We get a little bit of resource points for it, but let's set our goals for the next race weekend. 5 with 2 engine components is definitely doable. DRS slot open. Unless it rains, we should have that one no problem in practice. Lift and coast, easy, and perfect the race strategy program, which we do every weekend out to get the best fuel and tire data that we can use in the race itself. So we'll head on over next to the R&D section once I apparently wake up. Have I taken a nap here? There we go. You see well ahead, Aston Martin has re-jumped us, and now you can see Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull starting to open the gap up at the top again. They had some developments, it looks like, that have come in. 779 points. Really looking forward to try and get that next tire wear upgrade, but let's go ahead and give ourselves some extra engine power while we're at it. 352 resource points still available to us. Do I check and see? That should jump us near Aston again, but we still have a little bit to catch the very, very top. And it was the MGU-H, so our second MGU-H to have failed this season. It probably would have been fine if a different engine component had failed, but I might have to take yet another MGU-H this season in order to make it through. So we likely have another grid penalty coming up before the end of the season. But we are headed on to round 18 of 24 in the season. Singapore should be an interesting one, the original Under the Lights. But thank you all for joining me on this episode of the Driver Career Mode. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.